Welcome to the Thoughtful Leader podcast. My name is Ben Brearley. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of Thoughtful Leader. The Thoughtful Leader podcast is all about short, sharp leadership advice because thoughtful leadership is good leadership. Welcome to episode 284 of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be covering the topic of what to do if you're leading an ambitious employee. And this can be a real challenge. It's nice to have ambitious employees, but they're not easy to lead. So let's get into this one right now. So leading an ambitious employee can be quite a challenge. Now, on the one hand, an ambitious employee is often motivated to do more and achieve more, but the difficulty often arises when we need to provide opportunities to keep them interested. And if we can't, they become a flight risk when they start to consider heading for that exit. So in this episode, I'm going to take a look at some ideas for how you might lead your ambitious employee so you can get the best out of them without destroying their motivation at the same time. And just before we get started, if you're interested in potentially working one-on-one with me, then please get in touch. You can do that at the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/284. Now, if this is not the right time for working with me one-on-one, that's all right. You can also sign up for the Thoughtful Leader newsletter, where you can get the Thoughtful Leader Survival Guide for free, and you'll get access to all the resources and things that I send every week. Okay, back to the episode. So firstly, let's start with some of the challenges you might be facing when you're leading an ambitious employee. Now, here are a few that I've come across in my career and from coaching leaders in this situation. Now, the first thing is that you might notice there are limited opportunities. Ambitious employees thrive on opportunity. They need new challenges to feel motivated and to stretch themselves. Some organizations have limited potential to offer career development. There is also usually a lack of patience. Ambitious people want to make progress fast. They don't want to wait for years to hone their skills, and they don't want to hear you say they should be patient either. There's also the issue of mismatched talent and aspirations. Now, sometimes ambitious team members aren't really experienced or skilled enough, yet anyway, to do what they want to do. They also don't want to hear that they aren't ready, which can lead to frustration for you and for them. And lastly, we have the issue of competitiveness. Sometimes ambitious team members may become competitive with others in the team, and this can have benefits in some ways, but it can also become dysfunctional if it starts to damage relationships. So with all these challenges, how should we best deal with our ambitious employees? Well, let's look into that right now. And you can also have a look at all the way back to episode 71 of this podcast, A Simple Model for Team Motivation. That's a good related one I'd encourage you to check out as well. So that'll be on the show notes page as well, thoughtfulleader.com/284. So I'm going to give you a couple of principles here to lead the ambitious employee. And you can use these principles to help you make decisions about how to deal with your ambitious people. And this is sometimes better than suggesting specific actions you should take, because obviously your situation is unique and there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. So principle one, I'm going to say, is honesty. Now, honesty is important in leadership, and in fact, it's the number one leadership quality that people are looking for, according to the popular book, The Leadership Challenge. I'll put a link to that in the show notes page as well. In this book, the authors surveyed thousands of employees over about 35 years and have revised their research over 7 editions, and in every single edition of this book, honesty has always come out on top as the number one leadership quality people are looking for in their leaders. So when it comes to ambitious employees, we need to be honest with them. And this means being honest about your view of the time it might take for them to progress their career. Also, any limitations on the opportunities the workplace can provide, such as promotions, money, or other benefits. And also the skills, behaviors, attitudes, and experience that are needed to progress to where they want to go. And what we don't want is to lead the team member on, making them think it will be easier to progress when it isn't, or when there are opportunities to grow when actually they might be quite limited. They need your honest assessment of what it might take for them to get to where they want to go. And sometimes thoughtful leaders feel bad about this because they feel like they're crushing the hopes and dreams of their team member. But if you're not honest, you might just be leading them on and they might get a nasty surprise later on, which will make them more unhappy. And there's a related post on this that you might want to read about honest leadership and how to bring it more often. And that is on the show notes page as well, thoughtfulleader.com/284. Now, principle 1 was honesty. Principle number 2 is accountability. We also need to hold our ambitious team member accountable. And this means that if we provide opportunities and support them to get to where they want to go, they need to fulfill their part of the bargain too. They need to be open to feedback, improvement, and listening to your point of view. They need to take ownership of the quality of their work and how they behave in the team environment. Without this principle, the relationship can become a bit one-sided as you start to bend over backwards to try to satisfy your ambitious employee. Now, principle 3 is all about follow-through. So this is simple and it's about being good to your word. So that is, if you say you'll provide opportunities or advancement for your ambitious employee, you need to try to follow through and deliver that as best you can. If you tell your ambitious team member that if they do X, they'll be able to achieve Y, then you'd better make sure you try to, as much as you can, to provide Y when they meet that objective. Otherwise, trust will be broken and they'll know that even if they work hard and achieve great results, they aren't likely to be able to progress. Then it's only a matter of time before they get disgruntled and leave. So now some additional tips for handling your ambitious employee. The first one is to clarify the gap between where they're at and what they need. So many ambitious employees are so keen to make progress that they believe they can get there really quickly. And one way to limit this problem is to help to raise their awareness of the things it will take to get to where they need to go. So this is things like their skills, the qualifications, their experience, and the behaviors that they're showing. And ideally, you can work with your ambitious team member to do a bit of a gap analysis. So basically this means you compare where they are now to where they want to be. So you can do this in a few ways, and starting by looking at your own career journey and what you needed to do to get to where you are now. You can also connect your team member with senior leaders who are where they want to be so they can learn about their journey. You might also develop a plan of potential role progressions that might lead to their aspirational role, like stepping stones, and also researching industry trends, including job opportunities, to identify the key qualifications or skills that are sought after in the desired position. So once you have these sources of information, you can help your team member work backwards. What are they missing now that would hold them back? How could they get it? And how long would that take? So all this can hopefully provide a reality-based view that can help set expectations of how long the journey might be. And you can also do this in the form of a career conversation. And to have a look at that, go back to episode 254 of this podcast about prioritizing the career conversation. You might find that helpful too. The second thing I'd suggest is to help your ambitious team member find a mentor, because mentors can be a valuable source of advice and support for an up-and-coming go-getter. And you might consider using your own networks to help your team member find a suitable person who could mentor them. So this helps to provide multiple perspectives for the ambitious team member rather than just your own. And it may also give your team member a more realistic view of their prospects than if you were the only one in the conversation. And it's also an impartial perspective. It's not just you telling them that they can't get to where they want to go, for example. So this can be very useful, especially if your team member is hyper ambitious and needs somebody to help get them down to earth. Now, if it's just your opinion, they may just think you're trying to hold them back. Now, one thing I would suggest is another tip here: don't tell your ambitious employee to be patient. Just try not to say that. They most likely don't want to hear it, and they may believe you're simply trying to stop their progress. So instead of doing that, help them see what it will take to get where they want to go. Then they can decide whether they're being realistic or not. So telling someone to be patient almost means you're crushing their aspirations. So instead, help them see what will be required to get there, and then they can decide whether they're being impatient or not. Who knows, they might be able to get there as quickly as that if they're really capable. Another thing I'd suggest is providing regular effective feedback. So with an ambitious employee particularly, you need to raise awareness of any areas where you feel they might be lacking, as well as where they're on the right track. So one way to do this is through effective regular feedback, and you can use the simple AID model to do this. So AID stands for action, impact, and desired outcome. So with the action, you state what you've observed, so not hearsay that you've heard from someone else. So you state what you've actually observed. The impact, you let them know the impact of that action or situation. And then the desired outcome is D, work with your employee to develop a more desired outcome that would have a more positive impact for next time. So a simple example might be, the other day I noticed you spoke over Bob in the meeting. Bob was really upset about this and was quiet for the rest of the meeting. How could you help Bob engage and open up in these meetings going forward? And that's the desired outcome. So the feedback should include aspects of performance and behavior, not just performance, because what you don't want is a high achiever destroying the team with bad behavior because they're only focused on results. We need to teach them that behavior matters as well. So without regular feedback, your ambitious team member might think they're going well when maybe they aren't, and you want to be able to help them see their progress and be able to course correct where necessary. Otherwise, they might be in for a big surprise when they think they've done all they needed to progress, only to find out that they haven't. And there's an article that I'd recommend as well, 10 Simple and Effective Tips for Giving Feedback. You can find that on the show notes page that I mentioned earlier. The last tip I'd suggest here for your ambitious team member is build relationships with key stakeholders, because if you're going to help your ambitious employee achieve their lofty goals, you'll need support. You'll need support to help organize development opportunities, investigate potential promotion or pay increases or other benefits that might be rewarding for that team member. So it might take some time and strategic thinking to navigate a path for your ambitious employee to reach their goals. And this might mean setting expectations with senior leaders and understanding what potential there may be for career enhancement, including opportunities that could be created if the team member hits their targets. So if your team member is doing all the right things, why would you want to stand in their way? So it's always challenging when a team member wants to progress really fast. You'll need to invest time in setting expectations, helping them develop a plan, and identifying the steps that need to be taken for them to achieve their goals. Now, that's not to say we need to bend over backwards for them. They need to fulfill their obligations too, which include performing well and behaving appropriately along the way. Now, if you keep in mind the principles of honesty, accountability, and follow-through that I mentioned earlier, you'll hopefully be able to help them get to where they want to go. And even if the team is unable to support or provide for their aspirations, they'll at least know that you were trying to support them along the way. I'd love to get your thoughts on this one. How do you lead ambitious employees? Let me and all the Thoughtful Leaders know in the comments on the show notes page, thoughtfulleader.com/284. And while you have a minute, it would be great if you like this episode or the podcast in general, if you could leave a positive review on your podcast app of choice. It helps me spread the word of Thoughtful Leader and get help for thoughtful leaders out there who might need it. So thank you very much for listening. Check out that show notes page and let me know if you have any comments or queries. And of course, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer on the show as well, please send them through. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next time.